Picture 1 gooey cookies, crunchy candies, velvety cakes, waffle cones piled high with ice cream. Is your mouth watering? Are you craving dessert? Why? What happens in the brain that makes sugary foods so hard to resist? Sugar is a general term used to describe a class of molecules called carbohydrates. It is found in a wide variety of food and drink. Just check the labels on the sweet products you buy. And sugar isn't just in candies and desserts. It's also added to tomato sauce, yogurt, dried fruit, flavored waters, or granola bars. Since sugar is everywhere, it's important to understand how it affects the brain. What happens when sugar hits your tongue? And does eating a little bit of sugar makes you crave more? Let's say, for example, you take a bite of cereal. The sugar it contains activates the sweet taste receptors, part of the taste buds on the tongue. These receptors send a signal up to the brainstem and from there forks off into many areas of the forebrain, one of which is the cerebral cortex. Different sections of the cerebral cortex process different tastes: bitter, salter, umami, and in our case, sweet. From here, the signal activates the brain reward system. This reward system is a series of electrical and chemical pathways across several different regions of the forebrain. The forebrain is a complicated network, but it helps answer a single subconscious question. Should I do it again? That one fuzzy feeling you get when you eat grandma's chocolate cake? That is your reward system saying, yes, do it again. And it's not just activated by food. Socializing, drugs, and sexual behavior are just 3 examples of things and experiences that also activate the reward system. Overactivating this reward system kickstarts in a series of unfortunate events: lose of control, craving for more, and an increased tolerance to it. So, let's get back to a bite of cereal. It travels down into your stomach and eventually into your gut. And guess what? There are sugar receptors here too. They are not taste buds, but they do send signals telling your brain that you're full or that your body should produce more insulin to deal with the extra sugar you're eating. The major currency of our reward system is dopamine. Dopamine is an important neurotransmitter. There are many dopamine receptors in the forebrain, but they are not evenly distributed. Certain areas contain dense clusters of receptors, and these dopamine hotspots are part of our reward system. Drugs like alcohol, nicotine, and heroin send dopamine into an overdrive, leading some people to constantly seek that high. In other words, they are addicted to it. Sugar also causes dopamine to be released, though not as violently as drugs. And sugar are rare among dopamine-inducing foods. Broccoli, for example, has no effect, which probably explains why it's so hard to get kids to eat their veggies. Speaking of healthy foods, let's say you're hungry and decide to eat a balanced meal. You do, and dopamine levels spike in the reward system hotspots. But if you eat that same dish many days in a row, dopamine levels will spike less and less, eventually leveling out. That's because when it comes to food, the brain evolved to pay special attention to new or different tastes. Why? 2 reasons. First, to detect food that's gone bad. And second, because the more variety we eat in a diet, the more likely we are to get all the nutrients we need. To keep that variety up, we need to be able to recognize new food. And more importantly, we need to want to keep eating new foods. And that's why the dopamine levels drop off when the foods become boring. Now, back to the meal. What happens if in place of a healthy, balanced dish, you eat sugar-rich food instead? If you rarely eat sugar or don't eat much at a time, the effect will be similar to that of a balanced meal. But if you eat sugar too much, the dopamine response will not level out. In other words, eating lots of sugar will continue to feel rewarding. In this way, sugar behaves a little bit like a drug. It's one reason people seem to be hooked on sugary foods. Each time any sugar is consumed, it kickstarts a domino effect in the brain that sparks that rewarding feeling. Too much, too often, and things can go into overdrive. So the conclusion of this presentation is, Overconsumption of sugar can have addictive effects on the brain, but a wedge of a cake once in a while, it will not hurt you. Thank you for listening.